So you guys are going to be coming up with this theory, and the way you're going to do this theory is your choice to an extent. Instead of just making you, write a paragraph like we did with Columbus, you guys are going to have some choice on how you want to present this to us. And I say present, but it's really just a project, and it's how you're going to turn it in. So you will have 3 choices. I'll go over what those choices are, but this is kind of what we're looking at. When you open up assignment 36, the project, that's why it's got like that movie thing in. You guys are going to see that there's a lot of attachments, okay? You are not responsible for doing every single one of those attachments. Those are there because you have multiple choices on how you can turn this into us, turn this in for us, okay? So the very first thing that you want to point to is the first resource here that says the Roanoke Theory Checklist. So when you open up the Roanoke Theory Checklist, it looks like this. I've zoomed out of mine. That's the only reason why it might look different than yours. But what this is pretty much exactly what we're going to use to grade your theory. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have all of these things in your theory, however you end up choosing to present it, all of these things need to be there. Okay, so if you look, the very first thing it says is, I made a claim, which means I stated my theory. So you guys I've got an example that I'm going to use to kind of explain this a little better, but you got to start out by telling us what you think happened, right? I believe that the Roanoke colonists died of disease or assimilated with the Croatan Indians, whatever your theory is, okay? Then you're going to state one piece of evidence that supports that theory. So that can be anything from any of the clues. You're going to say where that evidence came from, so whatever number clue it is. And then here's the most important part. You need to explain how that piece of evidence proves that your theory is correct. Okay? How are you going to explain to me how does that evidence prove that you know what happened to them? Okay? Then you're going to do that again with a second piece of evidence. So what Sean had asked in the chat, are we basically picking 2 sentences from the sources and then, give our theory? That's pretty much what you're doing. I'm only expecting you guys to choose 2 pieces of evidence that you think most strongly support your argument or your theory, and you're going to use them to explain it. Okay, so then again, you're going to state where it came from, explain how that evidence supports your claim, and then you're going to have some kind of conclusion, that final push that you know what happened and why it all makes sense. Okay, so you look at the second resource, you'll see teacher example of Roanoke. Now, I do want to point out, this is just a resource. You don't have to turn this in. This is just for you. I've made it to where you can take notes in the side here, and you'll see that in my example. Or let's say you're going to do the flip grid and you're going to record yourself just speaking the theory like you're having a conversation with one of us. You can use these check marks to make sure that you've hit every point, okay? So we're not grading this. This is more of a tool just to help you organize your thoughts in your theory, okay? So I did that when I recorded this theory as well. You guys can look at that. That's the YouTube video attachment. But I used a theory that none of you guys are able to use because it's a crazy one. You can't use any of the crazy ones like they turned into trees or aliens abducted them or there was a zombie apocalypse, right? So I just used the theory about aliens, okay? And this is how I went about my theory. First, I made the claim. So the colonists are abducted by the aliens, and that is why we no longer know where they went. There's really no evidence of their bodies. There's no evidence of their descendants. We were never able to find them because they were abducted by aliens. Then I'm going to give my first piece of evidence. The word Croatoan in the tree from clue number 1. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, how could that possibly support the fact that aliens abducted these people? That is why the explanation is so important, because you might think Croatoan means that the Croatan natives came and attacked them, or that they went and joined the Croatan tribe. But I'm using that piece of evidence, and I'm telling you that it was that the aliens were watching the colonists. They saw John White leave. He was gone. This was their chance. So they knew the Croatan Indians lived around. They didn't want they didn't want the Europeans to know that aliens existed. So they wrote Croatan in the tree to throw them off the scent. Okay, so that's how that's where the explanation part is so key. So I can't just say they were abducted by aliens because they wrote Croatan in the tree. Does that even really, can you tell how I made that connection there? No, that's why you got to do the explanation on how. How does Croatan in the tree prove that your theory is right? And I'm saying it was so that everybody would think they went with the Croatan Indians, or that the Croatan Indians killed them. Meanwhile, it was just the aliens abducted them. My second piece of evidence that I used were the dare stones. I also said that the dare stones from clue 3 were there to distract people. They used Eleanor's name, which everybody knew Eleanor because it was John White's daughter. So they used the most popular one, and they start engraving in these stones, and they hide the stones so that nobody realizes that it was really that they were just abducted by aliens. And then I just have my conclusion here. So all this evidence is pointing to an alien abduction. Now, that sounds extremely crazy, right? But the way I explained it, was I at least a little bit convincing? If you didn't know that aliens weren't real, or maybe you do think aliens were real. But either way, the explanation, I did that so you could understand what that explanation part was. Okay? So this is not ever going to be graded. This is just a resource for you guys to look at and plan out your argument. I'll tell you, when I did it in the Flipgrid or in the YouTube video that you guys will see, I just used that as a guide. I didn't read straight off of it, but if you feel more comfortable doing that, you can. Okay, but this part won't be graded. Just a resource for you. Right? So once you've got your argument planned out, you're going to choose which way you want to turn it in. You have 3 choices, which means you're only doing one of them. Do not do your theory all 3 ways. You get to pick one. So it gives you the directions here when you open up this slide. You can create a Flipgrid video. You can create a Google Slides presentation. Or let's just say you think, hey, I'm a good writer. I'm going to stick with what I know. I'm just going to write an essay. Okay? So you click into, let's say I'm like, okay, what's this Flipgrid all about? It's going to take you to the slide that has the Flipgrid expectations. Has anybody used Flipgrid before? Give a nod if you've ever used it. I know that Miss Wilson used it at least once last year.
I don't know what
it's even gotten better. They've added to it where you can record yourself doing something. In this case, it would be speaking your presentation. So you would just like you were sitting in the room with Miss P and you would explain your theory and just kind of make sure you're following along with that checklist that you're giving us 2 evidences, telling us where that evidence is from, and then how it supports your claim. Just like how I did in front of you. If I was recording a Flipgrid video, I would be done already. Okay. There's also ways that you can like present your screen while you're talking. If you don't want us to see your face, there's all types of different effects that you can put in the Flipgrid. You can be as creative as you want. You can make it into like a movie as you're explaining it, put spooky music in the background. We don't care. We just want to give you the ability to be as creative as you want. But also, you don't have to write a single thing if you're doing this. Your turn-in is just going to be your Flipgrid video. And we'll just use that checklist and make sure that you've got all the parts. And if you do, you get all your points. Okay? You do need to make sure all of these things, that you take all these things into consideration. But that would be the Flipgrid option. I see you got your mic on. Sean, did you have a question?
Yeah, we don't have a nod. I think that's what he said. Sean, you got a question?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's say you say, I don't really want to do that. I can't really figure out Flipgrid. How about the slides? You can check out what the slides are all about here. So this would be for someone, you don't have to write like paragraphs here. You could do it in more bullet points, but there's going to be a little bit more creativity aspect to this. You'll be graded on, you've got to have some type of theme It doesn't have to be as elaborate as the themes that I use, but you know, make it look nice. It needs to have a background. It can't just be Arial font on white slides. Okay, make it something that you're at least a little bit proud of. You've got to have multiple slides to do this. Don't just write it all on one slide. I've given an example of what that would look like. Like slide 1 might be your title slide. Slide 2 might just be where you state your theory. Slide 3 is where you put your first evidence, where it's from, something along those lines. You need to use at least 5 images throughout your presentation that go along with Roanoke. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more creativity that you got to put into the slides. Not as like, you know, writing heavy, but it's kind of a mix. Okay, let's say you don't want to do that. You just want to write it, get it over with. I want you to make sure you're paying attention to that last line. This one is going to be graded most critically because it takes the least amount of creativity, like elements to it. If you're just writing, you know, it's probably going to take 2 paragraphs. I would say you couldn't do this in less than 2 paragraphs. You maybe need more, but this is where you'll just use your checklist and you will write out your theory in full detail. Give us your, you know, evidence. Your explanations might need to be a little bit more lengthier because since you're not speaking it, you're just writing it. Okay. And then make sure that you have at least 2 images along with the theory somewhere that you've chosen that go along with the theory you've created. Okay. So those are your 3 options. You do not have to do all 3. You are choosing one.
Just picking one. Miss Lily, I could present a quick Google slide. I've got a couple already made for them if they want to see an example.
Okay.
All right.
Let me show them this part real quick. So then all the other attachments, I give you a video where I kind of did that theory that I just explained to you. And then I go in a little bit and talk about Flipgrid in case you've never used it before. So there's a resource if you want to use that. If you choose to do the slides, this is where you'll do the slides. When you open this up, it's just a blank Google Slides document. I'd much rather you do it on here than create it in your own drive and then attach it. So you've got this here. So if you do the slides, this is where you'll do it. If you're going to do the docs, same deal. It's just going to be an open doc. And then if you want to do Flipgrid, you click into Flipgrid. You join with Google. It'll take you right into the assignment. And that's where it'll kind of give you the instructions on what we're looking for. And you can go ahead and start recording it. Okay. And then the rest. So you'll have blank docs. Like if you choose to do the slides, this will be blank. You still turn it in. We'll be able to see which one you worked on. But you'll do all your work on here. You're choosing one way to present your slides. Okay, so Ms. P is going to go ahead and share.
Yeah, let me get you on. All right.
Oh, wait, I got to.
Hey guys, this is just a slide. It's a Google Docs. You know, it's not in the docs. It's the yellow one for Google Slides. There we go. Okay, can you guys see that? I'm just showing you an idea. So basically, I just titled it, "What the Heck Happened?" and I can list what my theory is.
Ms. P, we're not seeing it yet.
You're not seeing it yet? All right, hold up. There we go. All right. So, I mean, literally, you can go to insert, of course, and get your image. And we're not asking you for much. You're just giving us our theory. My first slide is just them. And then I can explain what I'm thinking happened. You know, the colonists were fearful. Their leader was gone. They reached out to the natives. My theory is they assimilated. I'm going to give examples of how they did that and just fill it out and keep adding for 5 slides.
All right, so that's one way to do it.
One way to do it.
And you saw how easy she put those pictures in. It looked very nice. It looks like she's putting some time into it to make it engaging. So you guys aren't actually gonna have to present these to each other, but
Right.
you still, whenever you make something, I mean,
We still have to look at it.
yeah, we don't want to look at boring stuff. Shows how creative you are too. Even if you're not creative, fake it till you make it. All right. So then we're going to go ahead and you got about 9 minutes left in the period. If you want to get started on that, at least looking around, making the choice at maybe how you want to do your theory. Tomorrow we're going to get into Jamestown a little bit, but Friday, most of that period you will have to work on your theories. Okay. So we'll be here if you have questions. Caden, good question. The theory is going to be due on Monday. And it sounds like a lot, but once you get going, it comes quick. I did my alien theory and video in 10 minutes this morning. Okay, so theories due Monday. The evaluation of the sources are due Friday. The one that you guys started on yesterday. All right. So we'll go ahead and leave this up, but if you want to head out and start working on your theories, you're welcome to do that.
I am going to list a few names and give you options if you guys want to talk to me, that if you prefer to do a slide, I'm just going to put it out